So, are we ready? You know, this is really cool. All the things that are discussed over the weekend, and I get this part. I get the best part of the whole weekend. I love this stuff. And so, personal development is such a key aspect of our life, because although there's a lot of things that go on around us, they're completely out of our control. We can't control circumstances, but we can control our response to the circumstances. And so that's what makes personal development so powerful, because we're in control. It's the one thing we do have control over. See? And listen, so we've been through things. And by the way, let me just bring this. We've talked over the weekend. John talked about the history, and a lot of the people have talked about what's gone on. I got to just show you this deal here. From back in 1985, okay? You'll notice that there's, I had actually a little bit more hair back then, right here. But, this was really an amazing, and just one more time. How many others, can I just see one more time, those who survived 85? Can you stand up, those who survived 85? Woo, look at this. Isn't this cool? Right? Very, very cool. All right, thank you. Listen, these guys basically made things happen for us, you see? And so when we look at this, we want to ask ourselves, how does this happen? How did we get past that? I tell you, one of the main reasons we're able to get past anything and everything, all the circumstances, which are just that, they're just circumstances. They're just a blip in the road. They're just a part of the process. It's all circumstances are. They're just the goad for growth, right? And the reason we could do that is from day one. I remember one of the very first principles I learned from Mark Hughes, apart from simplicity, was no problem. No matter what came up, no problem. 2 months into the company, half of his organization left. Mark said, no problem. There's just never been problems. See, when you look at it, there are no problems. There's only process and potential. Because whatever problem comes up, it's just a process of getting through it to reach our potential. And we've got great potential. So how is it that we could get past all of this? It comes from that personal development. That's why Mark brought in Jim Rohn from the very beginning. There were several times when Mark brought Jim on board and had us go to his seminars before he became a part of the company, because he understood the value and the importance of that personal development. And there's many different qualities that we have as we grow and develop ourselves personally. We want to develop, ambition. We want to develop initiative. We want to develop humility. We want to develop strength, inner strength. We want to develop a quality called resilience. This is a great quality. Why is this such a valuable quality? Because it helps us bounce back from whatever issues we ever have to deal with, in life or in business. So what is resilience? Let's take a look. Resilience, great quality, okay? See, resilience is the ability to recover or adjust easily to misfortune or change. That's all we're going through now. Gang, it's just change. All we're doing is turning the corner. On the same road, gang. Same road, just turning the corner. It's just a little curve, And it makes us stronger. Because when we realize we go through the process, the potential that comes from this, it's going to be unbelievable. The potential is unbelievable what's going to happen. We're going to learn to do more, better, more effectively, more efficiently. See, efficiently is doing things right. That's what all the Mary talked about. But effectiveness is doing the right things. That's what Amber talked about. We got to have efficiency and effectiveness. So we got this resiliency. We want to come back. You know, I love psychology today. It says resilience is that an ineffable quality that allows some people to be knocked down by life, come back stronger than ever. That's us, right? That was after 85, us, right? Stronger than ever, rather than letting failure, or I should insert their change, overcome them and drain their resolve. Isn't that a great word? Resolve, right? They find a way to rise from the ashes. You see, guys, that's what we do. That's what makes us so incredible. That's why they said, listen, anyone who ever attacks, anyone who ever does anything, says anything bad against us, newspapers, I mean, you know, friends and relatives and all those things, listen, you know, it's all just we have got something that's so much bigger. And that is what helps us in our resiliency. See, resiliency comes from something bigger than you. We've got to have something bigger than you, bigger than us. Why is it that we got past 1985 when we got attacked by the pharmaceutical industry, you know, the FTC, the FDA, the government? How do we get by all that? Because Herbalife was bigger than the press. Herbalife was bigger than the FDA. Herbalife was bigger than the government of the USA. Herbalife was bigger. We had a bigger mission. We have a bigger cause. And when you've got something that's bigger than you, it raises you up. And that's what we get to do here. See, that's what happens. Many of you, just out of curiosity, how many of you ever read this book called The Tribal Leadership? I'm telling you, if you haven't read it, you want to read it. I'm telling you, Brad Harris introduced me to this book. Brilliant, brilliant book. Brilliant concept. And here's why. Because it takes you kind of through this process and helps to give you an understanding of how we become the best, how you become one of the best companies in the country to work for. That was what that book was really about. Analyzing the best companies, the top 100 companies in America to work for. Because so many people, it's all perspective, and this is why personal development is so important. It's just creating a better perspective. We can have the perspective that life sucks. And you say, well, look at all those people over there have done so well. They say, yeah, but they cheated and scammed people, so life still sucks. Right? Or you can say, yeah, but you know something? If you just made better choices, you would have a better life. Oh, really? You mean I have a part in it? Yes, that's personal development. Personal development's your part in the process that leads to great potential. And so when we say, oh, so that it's not that life sucks, it's just that my life sucks. Right. But there's hope. Because if you follow the process, there's great potential. If you just learn to respond better, if you just learn to make better decisions, you get better results. And you're in luck because we got a team of people. We got a company of people who are willing to teach you how to make better decisions. This is why we want to have mentors. Not just in Herbalife, outside of Herbalife. We've got to have mentors. We've got to have somebody who's beyond us. Just like we have to have a cause bigger than us. And so when we realize, oh, so you'll teach me? Yeah. And they said, okay. And so we teach them. And guess what happens? They start making better decisions. And things start turning out better. And all of a sudden they say, hey, life is pretty good. In fact, not only is life good, but I'm good. In fact, I'm great. This is incredible. Look at me. Look what I've done. Look what I've accomplished. But there's only one problem with that. We can only go so far with our own greatness. I mean, listen, we're great. You're great. In fact, you're greater than you know. Okay? And none of us have really reached the epitome of our greatness yet. We got a ways to go. We got a long ways to go. We know that by looking outside. We got a long ways to go. Oh, yeah, listen, we're making phenomenal impact. But when you look at the world as a whole, so we got a long ways to go. But the idea here is we can only go so far by ourselves. We've got to get to the point where we get past ourselves and realize, okay, because see, when we're in this great, phase of our life, what it is, it's a competitive deal. See, and by the way, it's essential. You have to go through this. You have to go through that competitive deal where you do get better. See, where you improve yourself, where you do want to, win. You really do want to get better on different things. But then you got to get to the point where you realize, well, wait a second, I'm only so great by myself. In fact, our marketing plan is designed for that. You can only get to World Team by yourself. You'll never get to Active World Team. You'll never get to Tab Team by yourself. You have to have a team. You have to take your greatness and their greatness, and between your greatness and their greatness, now we're great. See? And now we begin to really work together. And that's where we've seen the biggest growth. That's where we've seen the greatest development in our company, is when people begin working together, coming together. Instead of looking at the differences, we look at the similarities. We look at the uniqueness, which we'll get into in a little bit. We look at our uniquenesses and how your uniqueness and her uniqueness and his uniqueness and my uniqueness creates a greater uniqueness. And together we're great. Together we can do more. Together everybody does more, achieves more, team. And so that's that idea here, right? But then it even goes beyond that. It goes beyond us being great. And this is a part of this resiliency. There's got to be something bigger than us. Yeah, we're great. And then we can look at the company, and yeah, the company's great. See, but we've got to even go beyond that. I've told a story where I was coming back from the Future Pres Team retreat a few years ago when we were down in Boca. And I was sitting next to the director of Blue Cross Hospital in Los Angeles. I mean, this guy was the director of the entire hospital. He had over 1,400 employees. And we're sitting there and we're just chatting back and forth, and he knew about Herbalife, and we just had a wonderful conversation. He knew who we were, and at the end of that conversation, about 15 minutes before we landed, he asked me the question. He says, so, he heard about our growth and what was going on, and he knew what was happening and stuff in the industry and such. And then he says, so Denny, tell me, who's your competition? I know what he was asking, but I wanted to give him a better answer. And that's why we have infinite potential in what we have the ability to accomplish. We can do such great things, and you can be a part. You need to be a part, and we need you to be a part, you see. And so as we go through these things, sometimes we've got to be able to respond to things. And there's a principle that I briefly shared about on the last personal development call that we had. I call it the principle of opposites. And, and it's interesting because I think this is one principle that's one of the major keys in personal development. The principle of opposites. Because it's not really like what we think. You see, there's this amazing principle of opposites. It's the key concept, it's the key principle behind Jim Rohn's famous saying. For things to change. See, we love that saying, but the problem is that sometimes until we really get personally developed, we don't really take on that saying necessarily the way it should be. Because in reality, listen, the saying is for things to change, you've got to change. But the reality, the application of the saying is for things to change. It's not for things to change, you've got to change. That's what we want. For things to change, my group's got to change. For things to change, the company's got to change. For things to change, my spouse has got to change. No, it's for things to change, I've got to change. See, it's I've got to change. And when you change, everything changes. And that's how this whole thing works. See, I mean, it's that whole concept that's out there. And if you go through, and here's just an interesting, I'll just throw this out and then we'll move on. When you look at this principle of opposite, basically really what we're looking at is we're looking at responding to things that are contrary to our natural inclination. And if you would think, what is my natural inclination? How am I naturally inclined to respond? Think of the exact opposite. If you'll think of the exact opposite and do that, I would be willing to say 90% of the time you're going to be right on the mark. Because we're just naturally self-centered people thinking about ourselves for the most part. It's just how we work. You know how we know that? Because you never have to teach a kid how to be selfish, do you? Do you? How many have kids? How many of you taught them how to be selfish? No, we don't teach that. It comes natural. See? So think of what your natural inclination is. Do the opposite, and you'll be amazed at what happens. And so let's move. So what is the process for retaining this resiliency? Because if we go through the process, we'll be able to reach our potential. Now, the first question we've got to ask, who is God? Who is God? Got to ask that question. Now, listen, I'm not talking about your religious denomination or anything to that effect. What I'm talking about here is what is it that governs your life? Because see, when you answer this question, who is God? What it does is it establishes your values, and this affects everything. See, how many of you have you ever heard or seen the saying where it says, money is your God? How many of you ever heard that before? Money is your God? For some people, money is their God. For some people, family is their God. For some people, power is their God. For some people, position is their God. And whatever your God is, it establishes your values, and it affects everything. You say, well, I don't believe in God. That too establishes your values, and it affects everything. See, we've got to have something that establishes the values. We have to have something. If we're going to have resiliency, we have to have a base. We have to have principles by which we live our life. That's why when it comes to success, it doesn't have anything to do with position, power, or possessions. Here's another definition of success. I know you've heard 100 of them. I like this one. Success is when you successfully live your life according to your values. If you live your life according to your values, that affects everything, and you've achieved success, regardless of the results. Was Mother Teresa, was she rich? Was she successful? She didn't have the power. Well, she had power. She actually ended up getting a lot of position, but it came from her humility. It just came from her living her life according to her values. And because she lived her life so closely to her values, she stood up above the rest. And as she humbled herself to live her life according to her values, it brought her before kings and great people all around the world. They wanted to know. And so this is so valuable for us. So at this point in time, at this phase in your life, who would you view God to be? Good question. At this phase in your life, who would you view God to be? And what values does that impose upon you? And just understand that as you understand who that is, that it'll give you the establishment as to how you build your life. Now, once you understand who God is, second thing we need to know is, who am I? You see, what I've discovered is, and in fact, they've done surveys, and they say one of the top 3 questions that everybody has, literally around the world, regardless of culture or country or anything else, it's who am I, what am I here for, and where am I going? So powerful. Why am I here? See? It's very interesting. One of the most published books, printed books in publishing history, is a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. If you've not read that book, I highly suggest you read that book. And there's a reason it was one of the most published books in history, because people want to know about purpose. See, I'm listening to Rich Gudis up here and several others up here this weekend. What did Rich say? He said, we're not just mission-driven, we're purpose-driven. Did you see that? Not only in his philosophy with regards to the company, but with the philosophy regarding his own personal life. He said, I've been a purpose-driven person. I don't know about you, but that gives me great security, knowing the kind of man that he is. Powerful. So why am I here? See, we need to understand our purpose, our passion, and our potential. See, and so many people, why am I here? What am I here for? Am I just a glob of protoplasm that developed into this thinking machine that just kind of exists through life and then die? I mean, is that all I'm here for? Am I here just to exist? I don't think so. See, so how do we discover our purpose? Just a brief synopsis is, if you want to understand your purpose, follow your passion. Follow that inner desire. I always tell people, use your mind, but follow your heart. Follow your passion, and you'll discover your purpose. And so as you begin to follow your passion, then you begin to realize your potential. See, we have purpose in Herbalife. We have passion in Herbalife. But weekends like this are designed to help you to realize your potential in Herbalife. And this is an entire message in itself, just understanding your potential. But let me just share with you that our potential is discovered as we understand our uniqueness. Do you realize how unique you are? Listen, every single individual in this room is distinctly unique. You're unique in your background. You're unique in your family. You're unique in your parentage. You're unique in your culture. You're unique in your education, in your experiences, in your sufferings, in your pains, in your joys. All your circumstances, they're unique. They're unique to you. Nobody has had your exact same background, understanding, education, appearances, families, siblings, and experiences. That in itself makes you distinctly unique in just the social atmosphere. But physically, you're unique. We all know that we have fingerprints that are unique, right? Different than all 7 billion people. We all know that we have unique DNA. DNA gives us this really specific uniqueness. And by the way, that's not just on the 7 billion people that are on planet Earth. If you were to exhume everybody that ever lived on planet Earth, you would discover that our DNA is unique amongst every human being that's ever existed on planet Earth. You are so unique. And it goes beyond that. Do you know that everybody has a unique eye print? Everybody has a unique eye print. Everybody has a unique voice print. They can tell
If they get a recording, even if you have a cold, you have a unique voice print. And here's one you may not have known. You have a unique heartbeat. There's no two same heartbeats on planet Earth. Every human being has a distinct heartbeat. You know what this means? It means you see things differently. You express things differently. You feel things differently. You have a different passion. You have a different perspective. This is why you are all necessary. This is why we need to have each and every one of you to listen as leaders. When they say we want to hear from you, we need to hear from you. We need your perspective. We need your passion. We need your touch. Where do you think Jim gets this idea of each of us need all of us and all of us need each of us? It's because of our uniqueness. You are valuable. You are essential to the cause. You are essential to the process. We may not make it if it not be for you. And I'm not talking about our situation, I'm just talking about in life. How many times have you heard people come across this stage and they said, be it not for that person and their contribution to my life, I wouldn't be here today. Let me tell you something. Be it not for these people here. Be it not some of my cohorts who survived 85. I may not be here today either. You see? See, we all need each other. We're all valuable. We need to understand our purpose. Now, there's certain things that hold us back. We've got our uniqueness, and if we understand that, that's one thing. But the problem is we're growing up. Guess what we have to deal with? We have these things called elephant stakes. That's what I call them. My mentor, Bob Beal, taught me about elephant stakes. And the elephant stakes, you ever stop and think why a 15-ton elephant can be held in place by a little stake in the ground? He could just walk away if he wanted to, but he doesn't. Why not? Because when he was a baby, they put him to the stake, and he'd try to pull to get away, and he'd try to pull to get away, and he'd try to pull 100 times, and 500 times, and 1,000 times, and pretty soon he realized, I can't get away. And you know the saying that elephants have great memories? It's true. Because they never forget that. So even when they're 15 tons, they remember, I can't get away. And you know something? A lot of us have elephant stakes. Because when we were growing up, somebody says, hey, clumsy, hey, stupid, hey, fatty, hey, ugly. You know, and we get these, name tags that people put on our lives. And we don't forget either. If you're going to discover your potential, if you're going to develop your potential, you got to pull up the elephant stakes. You got to pull up the elephant stakes. Because when people say bad things, it affects everything. When people say good things, it affects everything. We're going to have I want to get that video ready. I want you to see the impact of good things. Because we have the opportunity here to share good things. See, when we see people doing different things, we can either point out the bad things or we can point out the good things. We can see the bad side of things or we can see the good side of things. And I want you to listen to this story about Thomas Edison. It's a little minute-and-a-half clip here. Can we have that clip? Whose destiny are you going to change? That power's in your hand. You can change the destiny of your team, of your sidelines, your uplines, your children, your spouse. Do you realize you have that potential? If we point out what they do right, if they point out the good, I'm telling you. We have a natural inclination to want to point out the bad. Hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you did that wrong. Hey, wait. What's the opposite of pointing out what's wrong? Pointing out what's right. You can affect people's destiny. Next. So we ask ourselves, why am I here on earth? What is my purpose? What is my passion? What is my potential? How do I take my uniqueness? How do I pull up the stakes, get rid of the stakes, and fully maximize my potential? Why am I here? What is my dream? What is my dream? What is it? I mean, if this is who God is, and this is who I am, and this is my potential, and this is what I have, the ability that I have, then what's my dream? How can I take this and make my dreams fulfill my passion, my purpose? How do I fulfill my passion and purpose? What dream? What can I create? My vision. Brad talked about the vision, the growth, right? What difference do you hope to make before you die? You see? It can be big. And it needs to be big. Do you see, understand why it has to be big? It has to be bigger than you so that when some circumstances comes along, it's bigger than you so that it can raise you up, so that it can lift you up. We need something bigger than us. And that's how we become resilient, because we rise to my values. I rise to my purpose. I rise to my potential. See? How will I live it out? Okay, if this is my dream, how do I live that dream? How do I live that dream starting today? How do I make that happen? See, lots of times, we ask people the question, so what do you do for a living? You guys have heard me talk a lot about, collecting questions. It's one of my things. I love to collect questions. They're so brilliant, right? And I heard this question here a while back. I picked it up in a book. And he said, rather than ask somebody, what do they do for a living? What they said, instead, don't ask, what do you do for a living? Ask, what do you live to do? Oh, that was a nice twist. I like that. Yeah, somebody, what do you do for a living? I'm an architect. I'm an engineer. I'm a salesperson. I'm a whatever. Right? But what do you live to do? Opens up a whole nother world. Can you imagine the difference that would make in your conversation with that person? What do you live to do? See? How will you live it out? It's your life work, whether you get paid or not. See, that's the thing about your life work. I don't know if you have ever seen anybody who says, he says, look through my eyes. If you could see through my eyes just long enough to see the potential, the possibilities, where we're going. See, Mark had that amazing ability to have the vision that was so clear that in his eyes it was already done. The vision was so clear, it was done. All he had to do was go through the process. That's it. It's done. It's finished. He was so confident. He was so clear that it was going to happen. All he had to do is just go through the process. Are there bumps in the road in the process? Of course. It's part of the road. But it was done. It was finished. He saw it so clearly. How will you live it out? What's your life work? So he asked himself the question, what can you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? For the rest of your life. Listen, we get paid for watching lives transformed before our very eyes. So what do you see yourself doing for the rest of your life? And how long do you want it to last? How long do you want it to last? Mark died 16 years ago. And his dream continues. The legacy continues. You see, how long? That's your legacy. Your legacy isn't when you're here. Your legacy is after you're gone. It's the impact that you've made on humanity. The beautiful thing about Mark's legacy is it's just getting bigger and bigger and better and better. The legacy is growing. Now that's a sign of a legacy. That's the sign of a legacy. How long do you want it to last? How long do you want the impact that you make on people, that you make on your team, that you make on your organization, that you make in the company, that you make in this cause, that you make in your life? How long do you want that to continue on after you leave? What is it that you need to do in order to make that happen? So we ask ourselves, how long would you like the difference to last? How long would you like to make that difference last? So when you go home, in fact, maybe we'll just take a couple of minutes here and go through this. Let's take 30 seconds and just get ready to jot down 5 things. 30 seconds. Think in your mind, put it through yourself, and ask yourself sincerely, and it's quick. You say, well, I don't have enough time, and that's exactly the point. I don't want you to think it through. I just want you to respond. Okay? 30 seconds. Who is God to you? At this phase in your life, who do you view God to be? 30 seconds. Write it down. If you had to write it down, who would you view God to be? Okay, second question. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my passion? What is my potential? 30 seconds. And what's your dream? What's your vision? What do you see as the possibilities? What difference do you hope to make before you die? If they were to put something on your tombstone as to the difference you make, what would it say? And now ask yourself the question, how am I going to live this out? Is it going to be Herbalife? Maybe Herbalife's just the vehicle that allows you to live out the life work that you really want to carry. And now ask yourself, how long do I want this legacy to last? How long would I like the difference to last? You see, as we grow, the reason it's essential for us to continue to grow, because as we continue to grow, it gives us a bigger platform by which to be able to leave a longer lasting legacy. So I want you to stop and think, and we'll wrap it up with this. I want you to suppose that you just got word you're going to die in 15 minutes. You're going to die in 15 minutes. And so you've got 15 minutes to share with the world your parting message. If you had 15 minutes to share a parting message with the world, what is that message? What is the message? Now, you think about that later, but I want you to stop and think. If I was to come down and stand here on the floor, cover up my mic, and I begin to share, what impact am I going to make? If I'm in a desert with millions of people around me and I'm standing on the ground, what impact am I going to make? I'm going to impact those who are closest to me. What if I could stand up on a 2-foot platform? Then what kind of an impact can I make? A little bit more. What if I got a 5-foot stage? My impact increases? What if I got a microphone? What kind of an impact can I make? What if I got now a full-on sound system? What kind of an impact? What if we could stream it live? You see, the reason we need to grow is to give us a bigger platform, to make a greater impact, to leave a lasting legacy. Thank you.